Very good afternoon to our respected resource person, sir, Professor J. Doungel, sir, and dear participant. We are here at this session 2 of day 6 of this national workshop on governance and development. As you know, in this session, Professor Doungel, sir, is here to deliver his presentation on the topic governance and development in tribal areas of Northeast India. And before his presentation, may I request our dear participant, Maria Resmiaka, who is a research scholar of University of North Bengal, to introduce our speaker, sir, as well as moderate this technical session. Thank you. Over to Maria Resmiaka. Are you hearing me?
Maybe connection problem.
This is here, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I think I request Maria Rasmiaka, the research scholar of University of North Bengal, who is also working as a participant of this 7 days long national workshop, to introduce our speaker, sir, as well as moderate this session. Over to Maria Rasmiaka.
Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon to respected speaker, sir, Professor Doungel, organizers of this week-long workshop, and all my esteemed fellow participants. On behalf of the organizers, ICSSR NERC sponsored 1 week interdisciplinary national workshop on governance and development scenario in Northeast India, sustainability and ethnic issues, organized by the Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, Guwahati, in collaboration with Krishnakanta Handy State Open University, Khanpara, Guwahati, and Golaghat Commerce College, Golaghat, Assam. I welcome you all on the 6th day and 15th session of the workshop. Before we begin the session, let me take the opportunity to briefly introduce our esteemed speaker of today, Professor Doungel. Professor Doungel finished his graduation with honors in political science at Patkai Christian College, Nagaland in 1993. He obtained his MA Political Science with first class, third position in Manipur University in 1996. He started his teaching career as lecturer in Department of Political Science at Bethany Christian College, Manipur. He joined Department of Political Science, Mizoram University as Associate Professor on 10th July 2012. He was head of department, promoted to the rank of professor with effect to 10th July 2015. He is a life member of Indian Political Science Association, Northeast India Council for Social Science Research, Northeast India History Association, Northeast India Political Science Association, Mizo History Association, Kuki Research Forum, and life member as well as advisor to Mizoram Political Science Association. He is also outgoing president of Kuki Research Forum and vice president of Northeast India Political Science Association. His areas of specialization includes Constitution of India, Autonomous Direct Council, 6th Schedule to the Constitution of India, Local Government and Politics of Northeast India. He has presented 28 papers in international seminar, 50 papers in national and 25 papers in regional and state level seminars across the country. He has published 32 papers in journals, 28 papers in edited volumes, and 4 papers in proceedings. He successfully guided 5 and 10 MPhil scholars He also evaluated 27 PhD theses and 8 MPhil dissertations as external expert. He was also deputy director and director of internal quality assurance cell in Mizoram University. He has been engaged as NAC peer team member 4 times up till now as member coordinator. He was a Fulbright Senior Research Fellow, availing the prestigious Fulbright Nehru Academic and Professional Excellence Fellowship Program for 9 months and affiliated in Department of Political Science, University of Cincinnati, OU State, USA in 2021. He is now a member of Mizoram State Boundary Committee and convener of Mizoram State Boundary Study Group. He published 4 single-authored books, 1 edited book, and 2 co-edited book, 2 edited books. Therefore, after this brief introduction, I would request Professor Doungel to take over and guide us with his speech. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Let me try to share the slide. So you can please tell whether the slide is seen or not.
No, sir, you can share your slide.
Hello, Dipen.
Yes, yes, sir. Sir,
I have to first click the slide and after that share, no?
yes.
And
Our
when I
coordinator
click
is
share,
here. Yeah, Dr. Doungel,
when I
sir.
click, when I click the share,
Uh,
that when I click the slide, share screen disappear.
so you can give it. Otherwise, if you're facing problem, you can give us the PPT. We can share from our side. It can
Yes,
also be
it
done,
can
sir.
be done. It can be done, but I don't know why.
Dr. Jogesh Das, sir,
Yes.
please guide our speaker, sir, to share his screen.
Yes. So can you go to the share option, then click?
Share screen.
Yeah, yes.
Hmm. Okay. Is it appearing?
No, sir.
When I click the slide, the share screen disappear.
In the meetings nearby, start reaction share option.
Yes, share screen, it is here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall I just deliver without sharing?
If you don't have any the PPT to us, we can share it, sir, from our side. If you need it, sir, then we can do it.
No, there is a problem also if I'm not controlling every time.
Yes, yes.
So let me just start without sharing now.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Whenever I click the slide, then the share screen disappear again. I cannot manage this. Okay, let me just start. Governance and leadership in tribal areas of Northeast India. So let's start with introduction. The northeastern region of India, as we know, was known and identified as Assam since British period because the British Empire demarcated hill tribes within the province of Assam. Prior to that, hill tribals in northeastern part of India were never under the control of outsiders. And with regard to Assam, as we know, Assam was known as Pragjotisa in an ancient time, Kamrupa in medieval time, and Assam in modern time. And the term Assam began to be used initially with the enactment of Northeastern Area Reorganization Act 1971. Even after that, many common people in mainland India, they don't know the different states of Northeast India. They still identify the region with Assam. And with the enactment of Northeastern Area Reorganization Act 1971, 3 new states, Manipur, Meghalaya, and Tripura, have been created, and 2 union territories were created, Arunachal Pradesh and Mizoram, which also became state with effect from 1987. So in every society since ancient time has some type of governance, and governance is usually responsibility of the leaders. Tribal territories of Northeast India also had their own system of governance where chief was the natural leader. And with regard to the chief combined upon himself the 3 organs of government, namely legislative, executive, and judiciary. And chieftainship was abolished with introduction of democratic system in many tribal territories of Northeast India, but it is still retained in some tribal area. Okay, we'll now move over to the second point. Governance and leadership in tribal areas during pre-British era. Before the coming of British colonialism, what was the status of governance and leadership in tribal areas? So different tribes of Northeast India, they were independent in their own way. And tribals in Northeast India, majority they are Mongoloid and Aryan or Dravidian. And chieftainship was the system of governance, and different tribal group, they live independently without any external control. So hill districts in undivided Assam, namely Naga Hills, Northeast Frontier Tracts, Khasi Hills, Garo Hills, Gentia Hills, Lusai Hills, Mikir Hills, North Kasar Hills, were independent in their own way. And in this group, hill areas of Manipur and Tripura, which have been dominated by the tribals since time immemorial, could also be included in the said group. So these tribal, they were independent in their own way, and all tribal groups, they had their own traditional system of chieftainship and administration. So all tribals, they had their own traditional ruler, the chief, and with regard to Northeast, Manipur and Tripura, they were princely states, they had kings, but in the tribal area, the tribal had their own system of chieftainship, and the tribal area were free from direct rule of the Maharaja or the king. And there were different types of chieftainships like hereditary chieftainship, autocratic, dictatorial, democratic, and republican. And hereditary and autocratic chieftainship could be found among the Zhou ethnic group or Jinkuki Mizo group, and republican chieftainship could be found among some Naga tribes. And majority of the tribal communities, they had hereditary and autocratic chieftainship. And Khasis had Siams, Garos had Nokma, and different Naga tribes also, they had their own chiefs. And likewise, even in the northeast frontier tracts or present Arunachal Pradesh also, uh, they had their own chiefs. Likewise, Lusai Hills also had traditional chiefs like Silo chiefs and some other Lusai chiefs. Then Lai or Poi chiefs and Mara or Lakhal chiefs in the southern part of Mizoram. These chiefs in Lusai Hills, they had their overlord, powerful chiefdom in Chin Hills, like Falam Halkha, Tlantlang, Zokhwa, and Sakta. So these hill tribes of Northeast India, hill territories of Northeast India, they were neither part of Assam, nor Bengal, or Burma at that time. So that was the situation of the tribal area in pre-British era. Then governance and leadership in British era. The main intention of the British coming to India was business motive and commercial gain. So the British authority in India tried to avoid military confrontation with hill tribes as per direction of the Supreme Government at London, because involvement of British administration in military conflict with hill tribes would incur more expenditure than earning revenue. So they tried to avoid open conflict or open war with these hill tribes. And as I've said, during that time, hill tribes in present Indo-Burma frontiers, they were neither part of India, nor Burma, nor Bengal. And they were independent from other rulers. But this non-interference policy of the British was misjudged by the hill tribes, which necessitated military action against them by colonial ruler. So British annexed hill territories one after another, especially after the signing of Treaty of Yandabo on 24th February 1826. Then before that, Assam was repeatedly invaded and plundered by the Burmese, and many of the northeastern region were occupied by the Burmese. So the British declared war against the Burmese, and after that, the Treaty of Yandabo was signed. And after the signing of the Treaty of Yandabo on 24th February 1826, hill districts or hill territories in northeastern region, they were annexed to the British Empire one after another. Garo Hills was the first to be annexed in 1822. That was before the signing of Treaty of Yandabo. Then Kasar in 1830, Zentia Hills in 1883, Khasi Hills in 1835. Lusa Hills was occupied since 1890, but it became part of British Empire with effect from 6 September 1895. In such a way, North Kasar Hills, Naga Hills, Northeast Frontier Tracts, and rest of Northeast India were taken over by the colonial ruler one after another. And the first tribe with whom the British came into contact was the Garos. So, which could be traced back to 1765. And so, as the British came nearer to Bengal territory with the acquirement of Diwani of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa in 1765, they began to know and they came into contact with these tribal people and tribal chiefs. And the British acquired Sylhet in 1765, and they came so close to the Khasis. Then the Khasis bravely fought against the British, and particularly Khasi chief Tirot Singh gave resistance for 4 years. And after that, Khasi chiefs were subdued, and Jantia territory was also occupied. So in such a way, these hill territories, they were annexed one after another by the British. Then, with regard to these Lusai Hills, the British experienced the first raid of the Lusai in Kasar in 1845. Then after that, Alexanderpur Tea Garden was attacked by two Silo chiefs who were brothers, Bengkhoya Silo and Savunga Silo. And as a result of that, tea planter James Winchester was killed and his daughter Mary Winchester was kidnapped. At the same time, many other tea gardens in Kasar, Chittagong, and Tripura were also attacked. Due to that, Lusai Hills was attacked from Kasar and Chittagong in Lusai expedition of 1871-72. So they rescued Mary Winchester, but the British did not remain in Lusai Hills. And the British told the Lusai chiefs not to raid the plain area, but it could not be stopped. And due to frequent raids of the Lai chiefs, Mara chiefs, and Lusai Hills, Lusai chiefs from South Lusai Hills in Chittagong Hill tracts, British revenue collection in Chittagong declined from 89,109 to 83,222. So it was a prestige issue for the greatest empire of the world at that time. Then continuous trouble was also given from the Chin Hills. As a result of that, both Chin Hills and Lusai Hills were attacked by the British, known as Chin Lusai Expedition of 1889-1890. And after that, both Chin Hills and Lusai Hills were also occupied by the British. And particularly some tribal territories in tribal areas in Northeast, like Tonsang area in Naga Hills and Zongling area in Lusai Hills became part of British administration only in the late 1920s. And after the British came into contact with these hill tribes, the British knew that they were different from people from the plains. They had different custom, culture, tradition, way of life, and they had their own administrative system. So the British felt that these hill people, they require separate governance apart from the laws which were enforced in the plain area. They knew that the laws and regulations which were enforced in the plain area would not be applicable in the hill areas. Due to that, some exclusive laws were enforced for governing these tribal people in hill areas, like Regulation 10 of 1822, Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation 1873, Scheduled District Act of 1874, Chin Hills Regulation 1896, Government of India Act of 1919, some clause, and some clause of Government of India Act of 1935. And by the Government of India Act of 1935, hill areas were classified into excluded area and partially excluded area. And during that time, this excluded area was totally excluded from reform and normal administration. They didn't have representation in Assam Legislative Assembly also. But those tribal from partially excluded area or a bit developed tribal area, they had representative in Assam Legislative Assembly. And one prominent tribal leader, Reverend J.J.M. Nichols Roy, who was member of Assam Legislative Assembly and who was member of that Legislative Assembly from 1921 till his death in 1959. And he was also Cabinet Minister of Assam for 4 times. And this Reverend J.J.M. Nichols Roy, he did many magnificent works for tribals of Northeast India. And now, emergence of democratic leadership in tribal areas on the eve of independence. So it should be noted that wherever British Empire reached, British Empire and British administration was always followed by missionaries for preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. The missionaries not only preached the gospel, but also introduced primary education to the native people. And that later education which they got, it became an eye-opener for the tribals in hill districts of undivided Assam. And that also led to significant political development. As a result of that, political awakening took place among the Khasi and Gentias, because Shillong was headquarters of the Assam provincial government at that time. For the first time, Gentia Dalbar, that means political platform for Gentia people, was established in 1900 AD. Then, in 1923, Reverend J.J.M. Nichols Roy took the initiative in formation of Khasi National Dalbar and became its secretary. And Reverend J.J.M. Nichols Roy, he was a Khasi pastor belonging to the Church of God, and he was also a wealthy orange farmer. And Reverend J.J.M. Nichols Roy, after he became Minister of Government of Assam, he gave up the secretaryship of Khasi National Darbar, and he offered it to Job Solomon, who was one of his faithful followers. Then Indian Statutory Commission, or Simon Commission, came to India in 1928, which led to full-scale political activities in Khasi Hills. So, when that commission came, the CM of Khairim submitted memorandum to the Simon Commission. Then Job Solomon, along with two others, also submitted representation to the Statutory Commission. And the memorandum complained against the system of issuing sanad since 1859, because that put Siams under complete control of the Deputy Commissioner, which was not at all welcomed by the Khasi people. Because through control of Siams by the Deputy Commissioner, they could grab land, and that was a loss for the Khasi tribal people. Then another Khasi group led by Babu Sip Charan Roy also submitted representation to the Simon Commission. And Khasi Jantia Young Men Association staged a public meeting on 22nd December 1928 to know and hear about the memorandum submitted by Solomon and his group. And there was plan for legalization of Khasi National Darbar, but that was opposed by MacDonald Kharkongal and his group. Anyway, that meeting passed a resolution to give appellate jurisdiction power to Kolkata High Court for any judgment of Deputy Commissioner of Khasi Jantia Hills. And when Viceroy Wellington visited Khasi Hills in 1933, Khasi states they submitted memorandum to the Viceroy. Khasi states means some villages grouped together were known as state. And other hill district other than Khasi Jantia Hills, where there was some political movement and activity, was the Naga Hills in the 20th century. So, in these Khasi Hills and Naga Hills, some political movement took place. Then there was election to Assam Legislative Assembly in 1937, which resulted in coalition government, and moderate Muslim politician Muhammad Sadullah became the chief minister, and Reverend J.J.M. Nichols Roy continued as cabinet minister under his leadership. And during that time, there was outbreak of Khasi Bengali riot in Shillong. And Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose visited Shillong as president of the INC. And as a result of his visit, Khasi Hills District Congress was formed by MacDonald Kharkonger. But when Shillong Assembly constituency ticket was given to Reverend Judge M. Nichols Roy, who won with thumping majority, MacDonald Kharkonger left the party which he founded. So some political activities and political movement took place in Khasi Zentia Hills, and Khasi Zentia Political Association was also established in 1946 and submitted memorandum to Secretary of State for India, the Cabinet Mission, and Governor of Assam. And likewise in Naga Hills, when C.R. Pose was the Deputy Commissioner of Naga Hills District Council was established as a political forum in April 1945. And in the next year, in February 1946, this body changed its name into Naga National Council under the leadership of Aliba Imti Au, who was the son of Au pastor. And during that time, Bordoloi subcommittee visited different hill districts of Assam. And so there was some political uncertainty on the eve of independence. Some voice for Crown Colony, some they wanted to be independent, and some they favor Copeland Plan, and nothing was certain. Particularly in Naga Hills, the NNC led by Fijo, they propagated the slogan for independence of Naga Hills. And in Lusai Hills also, some political issues were there. District Chief Darbar was created by McCall. And after that, when McDonough was the superintendent, he changed it into district conference. But that was also not representative enough because enough representation was given to the chiefs. So commoners were not happy at all. And at last, on 9 April 1946, the first political party of Lusai Hills, Mizo Union, was formed by R. Van Loma. And in the next year, United Mizo Freedom Organization, AMFO, was formed on 5th July 1947 by the first Mizo postgraduate, Lalbiak Thanga. And in 1949, Poi and Lakhel tribe, they formed one political party, Poi Lakhel Tribal Union. So some political activity began to take place. Then in Mikir Hills also, some political activity took place. And after the Second World War, Garo Hills became conscious of their identity as a result of growing literacy, intensified contact with outsiders, then participation in the freedom struggle, and return of ex-servicemen like Captain Williamson Sangma to Garo Hills, and which led to the formation of Garo National Conference, and which became dominant party in Garo Hills under the leadership of W.A. Sangma. And what was the condition and how things changed after independence? Point number 5, governance and leadership in tribal areas after independence. On the eve of independence, a great fear psychosis was created in the mind of tribal people. The tribal people from hill territories, they were fearful of losing their land, autonomy, ethnic identity, language, traditional tribal practices, custom and culture. And at that juncture, the prominent tribal leader, Reverend J.J.M. Nichols Roy, who was also Cabinet Minister of Assam, submitted memorandum to Cabinet Mission team led by Sir Stafford Cripps. Then he apprised them about the condition that tribals were vulnerable for exploitation of the plain Hindus and Musalmans. So after being aware by Reverend J.J.M. Nichols Roy, the Cabinet Mission team under Sir Stafford Cripps made a public statement on 16 May 1946, which gave strong suggestion to Constituent Assembly of India for formation of an advisory committee. And this advisory committee should find out constitutional solution to the problems faced by minorities and tribal communities in excluded and partially excluded area. So, as suggested by Cabinet Mission, Constituent Assembly of India established advisory committee with Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Iron Man of India, as chairman, which should study upon fundamental rights, rights of minorities and tribals of excluded and partially excluded area. And Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights, Minorities and Tribal and Excluded Area could not take up all the minor details because India at that time was the present India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. It was undivided India, and the area was so vast. Due to that, Advisory Committee appointed 5 subcommittees to deal with different issues. And out of the 5 subcommittees, 3 subcommittees deal with tribals. One with tribals in excluded and partially excluded area of Assam, Northeast. One with tribals in Northwest Frontier Province and Balochistan tribal area, which now became part of Pakistan. Then the excluded and partially excluded area in provinces other than Assam subcommittee, that is, those Adivasi tribes or tribal in mainland India. Then in this Northeast Frontier Assam tribal and excluded area subcommittee, Gopinath Bordoloi, who was the Chief Minister of Assam at that time, was the chairman. And other members of the committee were Reverend J.J.M. Nichols Roy, Rupnath Brahma, A.V. Thakur, and Mayang Nokcha. And this Bordoloi subcommittee visited Lusai Hills, North Kasar Hills, Mikir Hills, Naga Hills, but they could not visit Garo Hills and Zawai subdivision of Khasi Hills due to bad weather and communication problem. But those leaders, they met them at Guwahati and some in Shillong. Then this subcommittee, they collect whatever information they got, the feedback and the likes and dislikes of the tribal, and submitted it to chairman of the advisory committee, Vallabhbhai Patel, on 20th July 1947. And this report dealt with certain issues concerning development, special feature, land, forest, zoning, code, finance, control of immigration and services of the tribal. And this advisory committee discussed the report on 7 December 1947 and 24 February 1948. Then after that, the drafting committee also studied the report. And this report was put by B.N. Rao, constitutional advisor to Constituent Assembly of India, in 7th schedule, but that was rearranged and put in the 6th schedule by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Then the draft schedule was submitted to President of India, Constituent Assembly, on 21st February 1948. And the matter was heatedly discussed in Constituent Assembly on 5, 6, and 7 September 1949. And after heated exchange, there were some strong opponents like Rohini Kumar Chowdhury and Kulodhar Chaliha from Assam and Rajeshwar Prasad from Bihar. They said that giving autonomy to the tribal was so harmful. Kulodhar Chaliha even alleged that in the same manner how Pakistan was created, this 6th schedule would create tribalism for the tribal people. But on the other hand, there were strong supporters among the prominent members like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Gopinath Bordoloi, A.V. Thakur, Jaipur Singh, and Reverend J.J.M. Nichols Roy. So, after 3 days of heated debate, Constituent Assembly adopted the sixth schedule. It was incorporated in sixth schedule to the Constitution of India, autonomy of the tribal, then in Article 2442 and 275 of the Constitution of India. And through these, tribal were given constitutional autonomy, and tribal area was divided into two parts, Part A and Part B. In Part A, there were 6 hill districts: United Khasi Zentia Hill District, Garo Hills, Lusai Hills, Naga Hills, North Kachar Hills, and Mikir Hills. Then in Part B, Northeast Frontier Tract, that means present Arunachal Pradesh, and Naga tribal area, that means undivided Tuansang district. So in Part A, the people were a bit developed, they could govern themselves, so autonomous district council was facilitated for this Part A tribal area. But in Part B, the people were still primitive at that time. Literacy rate was also so low. So people were not in the condition to govern themselves. Due to that, though they were under the autonomous provision, they would be under the direct rule, discretionary rule of Governor of Assam. Such was the provision. That means Part A means 6 schedule with autonomous district council, and Part B means 6 schedule without autonomous district council. So due to that arrangement, democratic system began to function among the tribals. Then in many tribal society, chieftainship was abolished. But out of the 6 hill districts in Part A, ADC could not be established in Naga Hills because it was boycotted by NNC led by Fijo. Election was boycotted and ADC could not be formed. But in the other 5 remaining hill districts, ADC could be established. And in Lusai Hills, chieftainship was abolished and chieftainship was replaced by village council. But one question still remains and debate is still going on, that ownership feeling of the chief is still found in this democratically elected village council. It is still a big question and debate in this regard is still going on. So I'll not go into detail. And in the original 6th schedule provision, Naga area was divided into 2. Undivided Tuansang area, it was put part of Part B, and it was amalgamated with NEFA, which was tooth and nail opposed by both underground and overground Naga. And Naga People's Convention, NPC, had 3 consecutive meetings, and due to strong pressure from this NPC, Tuansang area and Naga Hills was amalgamated into one administrative unit known as Naga Hills Tuansang area in 1957. And after that, that Naga Hills Tuansang area was automatically created into the state of Nagaland in 1963. Then in other hill district, Eastern India Tribal Union staged Hill State movement, and it was subsided after Eastern India Tribal Union joined Congress government. But with the declaration of Assamese as official language of Assam, that Hill State movement was renewed with new name, All Party Hill Leaders Conference in the 60s. So all tribal areas, they were part of that. But due to some differences, Mizo Union withdrew from APHSLC and began demanding for separate Mizo state. The next result of that, Northeastern Area Reorganization Act was enacted in 1971, which created 3 new states: Manipur, Tripura and Meghalaya, and 2 new union territories, Arunachal Pradesh and Mizoram. So after that, there was some change in the 6th schedule. Naga Hills Tonsang area, Nefa and Mizo District Council were deleted from the 6th schedule. And list of the 6th schedule in paragraph 20 also changed from part A and part B to part 1, part 2, and part 3. Part 1 means list of ADC in Assam, part 2 list of ADC in Meghalaya, and part 3 list of ADC in Mizoram. And insurgency also disturbed the region from time to time. The first insurgency was experienced in Naga Hills because Naga Hills NNC declared unilateral declaration of independence of Nagaland on 14 August 1947, which was followed by armed insurgency in Mizoram. And when NNC declared independence, Naga inhabited areas in Manipur, Assam, and Arunachal Pradesh were automatically affected. So insurgency continued with NNC, but after the signing of Shillong Accord, breakaway faction led by Thungaling Muiwa and Isak G.C. Shu, they formed National Socialist Council of Nagaland. And in the late 80s, Khaplang, he led some breakaway group and formed NSCNK again. And now there are, even within the NSCN, there are NSCN IM, NSCNK, NSCN Unified, and NSCN Reformation. 4 NSCN and 2 NNC. And insurgency in Naga Hills was followed by Mizo Hills. So Mizo National Front declared unilateral declaration of Mizoram independence on 1st March 1966, which had direct impact upon the Zo ethnic tribes in Manipur, Assam, Tripura, Bangladesh, and Burma. But that 2-decade insurgency came to an end with the signing of Mizoram Accord on 30 June 1986. So governance and leadership in tribal territories of Northeast India, namely Naga Hills and Lusa Hills, were disturbed by insurgency movement, and administrative machinery was also paralyzed to some extent. Then followed by Mizoram and Nagaland. Insurgency also took its root in Manipur Valley. So far as Manipur hill area is concerned, with the beginning of Naga independence movement, it affected Naga inhabited areas of Manipur. Likewise, with the beginning of Mizoram independence movement, Kuki-Chin dominated areas in hill areas of Manipur were automatically affected. But Valley was not yet disturbed by insurgency. But even Manipur Valley began insurgency in the 80s, which was followed by Assam, Tripura, and Meghalaya. But insurgency is not that successful in Meghalaya. And among the northeastern states, Arunachal Pradesh can only be said as the state which is not disturbed by insurgency. But though Arunachal itself does not have its own insurgent organization, even Arunachal Pradesh is also continuously disturbed by insurgency from across the border, across the state border, like from Nagaland and Assam. So in this way, it can be said that no state is totally free from insurgency. And as I've mentioned in the beginning, chieftainship is the traditional tribal governance, and in some tribal areas, tribal territories, chieftainship is already abolished, but it still has its impact, particularly in Mizoram. Chieftainship was abolished way back in 1954, but chief family, they still have impact in politics because they were earlier ruler. And chieftainship was replaced by democratic village council. And when these village councils were established, many former chiefs, they were invited to be the village council president or to become village council president uncontested. In such a way, we can know that and the rule of the chief, which still Manipur. Chieftainship is the traditional chieftainship is still functioning, particularly among the Zo ethnic tribes or Kukichin tribe. And they are still adjudicating leadership role in governance. And so far as Arunachal Pradesh is concerned, Arunachal Pradesh is the first tribal territory in Northeast India where but Government of India now has a vision to decentralize administration and to extend PRI even in tribal areas. So on the basis of this vision, Panchayat extension in scheduled area PISA was enacted by the government, and many tribal areas in mainland under 5th schedule, they were put under Panchayat through this PISA program of government. But so far as tribals in Northeast India are concerned, it may not be fruitful to introduce in the tribal society such policies. It may be introduced in modified form, like without using panchayat, village assembly can be used, but the Panchayati Raj system can be introduced without using the name, without using the nomenclature. In such a way, there may be chance for acceptance among the tribal society. Okay, we'll come to the concluding remark. So, governance and leadership in tribal territories of Northeast India has been channelized through chieftainship and through the chiefs since pre-British period. And British administration also wisely recognized chieftainship by legalizing chieftainship, recognizing the authority of the chiefs, and using the chief as tax collector. The chiefs appear to be very powerful in the eyes of the people, but the British administration utilized them as middlemen and their tax collector. So, independence of the country witnessed replacement of traditional chieftainship by democratic system and the rule of the chief by democratic leaders in some tribal area. And sixth schedule was the main political governance for whole tribal territory of Northeast after independence. And through that, even village administration was also democratized. And as a result of that, some tribal territories, they aspire for higher political status. And due to that, some hill district under 6th schedule provision, they will upgraded to autonomous state, union territory, and ultimately to statehood. Chieftainship has already been abolished in some tribal territories, but chieftainship still has impact, even in such territories where it was already abolished. Why? Because chiefs are still the governing authority in such tribal territory where it was abolished. Why? Because people have some emotional connection with the chief. And now government of India has initiated certain steps for enforcement of decentralization through PRI, but tribal people are allergic even to the very name. Therefore, modified form of the system convenient to the tribal social system may be advisable to be introduced by convincing the tribal. If not, it may be like pouring petrol in the already burning fire. Due to that, objective and inclusive measures need to be adopted by decision-making authority in this regard. So, till the tribal areas are fully developed, till the remotest corner of the country are fully developed, India will never be in the group of 7 or G7 countries without developing tribal territories. Due to that, for inclusive development of India as a whole, even the remotest corner of the country, including tribal territories, should be developed. Okay, with this, let me end my lecture, and I will now hand it over to the moderator. If there is any query, or if time permit us, we can have some time for interaction. And I will now hand it over to the moderator to moderate us further.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your speech. I can't see any question in the chat box. If anybody has any question, if they want to ask directly to sir, they can proceed.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yes.
Carry on.
Okay. Sir, I have a kind of a pertinent question. I mean, the very, very insightful, the entire history of how, tribal area development actually came to be to what it is right of now. You have given a very, very interesting, you've traced the entire growth and put it across in a very interesting manner. Yes, sir, I have a very, very pertinent question with regard to this, that, there has been a lot of struggle, there has been a lot of political upheaval, there has been a lot of, turmoil that the hill areas, the hill districts have also undergone to reach to this particular constitutional framework that is available to most of the hill district areas in Assam and the other parts. Now, with respect to the 6th schedule area, my concern is, sir, that right of now, what is happening, I'm not very much aware of what is happening beyond Assam. But in the 6 schedule areas of Assam, the situation is very dismal. In the name of development, in the name of
Right.
policy framing and, implementation, things are being done. Policies, I can see that it is hyper visibility of policy implementation. But the actual, the essence of the 6th schedule is lost somewhere. There is rampant corruption. Everything is being controlled, by an unknown hand. I mean, an unknown hand is something that is known to everybody. So, sir, what is your take on this? I mean, was this autonomy of the 6th schedule? I mean, was this what was expected? And is this for all these years that the struggle had been put on by the concerned hill district leaders? So is this what they were thinking of? And if not, then what exactly can be done to, actually get back to the very essence of autonomy in a 6th schedule, sir?
Yeah. Kunjalata, what you have observed in Assam, that is also the ground reality and effect with the 6th schedule in Mizoram, Meghalaya, and Tripura. So it is everywhere the same. And in addition to that, one thing that I would like to mention is that at Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Gopinath Bordoloi, and Reverend J.J.M. Nichols Roy have been rising again from their grave. What they visioned in 1947 when they framed the Constitution, and what is really happening now, they may wonder it. Things are not moving, or things are not done like what they vision. And the thing is that with regard to this 6th schedule, it is given autonomous power. Autonomous power in the sense, 3 organs of government, legislative, executive, and judicial powers are given with this ADC. But in order to do work, government should make law, isn't it? But in lawmaking, most of the ADCs, they are not strong enough. Then due to that, they cannot do certain works. And over and above that, like they got funding from Article 2751 of the Constitution of India through state to do certain development work. But though the ADC and 6th schedule is structured and established on constitutional norms as a government institution, in reality, it is functioning more like political institution than government institution. That is the problem. Due to that, there are high politicization of recruitment, high politicization of posting, high politicization of every decision, and even use of development fund. And over and above that, like with regard to this recruitment, in most of the autonomous district council, they have overstaffed employees beyond the requirement. Due to that, most of their funds have been spent on this payment of salary to their employees. So no much fund is left for uh, doing development works. So, and at the top of that, uh, it, so the main concern is uh, autonomy, protection of custom, culture, tradition. But now, instead of that, more focus seems to be given on development aspect. But in that development aspect, also how it is functioning, we all know and see. So this is the situation. In this regard, I think more awareness and more constitutional awareness is required to be imparted and required to be given to the political leaders and common people and citizens intellectual circle of the 6th schedule area. Without that, things will not improve.
Sir, what has often been seen is that, the militant group, once they, come over ground and they cease fire and they get back into mainstream, structure and all, the best possible way for them that has been found over the years with whatever limited understanding I have is that they contest elections for the autonomous councils. They seize power. And once they seize power, and you have a better idea, sir, what happens. Now there is so much of dilution of the very concept and the very idea of autonomy. There is so much of interference from the state government. There is so much of intervention from the central government. The autonomy which was guaranteed to them as per Article 244 capital A is something that has taken a back seat. Everything is done, there are those, it's like they are more of a puppet, and the entire puppetry is being strung by somebody above them. So where is the very essence of autonomy in a 6th schedule, for that matter? If this is going to be the scene, and I believe the future is very, very bleak, now that they are coming up with this very idea of codification of customary laws and all, they may as well just dissolve the entire thing and just get back to what it was originally. Sir.
Now, in this regard, necessity and constitutional requirement is there. But as I've said, as I replied in my first interaction, awareness is required. Because sometimes, due to lack of awareness and due to lack of knowledge of the constitutional provision, the leaders themselves, they admitted to the higher authority instead of defending their autonomy. That mostly happened. That is due to lack of awareness. And actually, the provision is still very much required. And some communities still require safeguard. But as I've said, sometimes many, they don't know for what purpose this constitutional body is established. So awareness and constructive awareness is required in this regard. If not, things will not improve overnight because it is already decayed.
Yes. I mean, hoping for the best is the only possible way out.
Yeah. That is.
But then again, sir, with all these militant groups, coming, joining mainstream, and then contesting elections, I mean, the scenario is just getting horrible in Assam. I mean, my personal, observation of these two district councils in Assam, I mean, it is basically these groups that are controlling everything in their area. So they are minting money.
Why you mention only those two ATC autonomous council? Why you are
Everybody
not
knows.
mentioning territorial council?
Everybody knows. And it's
Yeah.
it's so disgusting. I mean, their coffers are being filled up, I mean, in name of development, whatever policies and all are being undertaken, partially it is done to cater to, whatever requisition has to be shown or given. But apart from
Yeah.
that, I mean, it's just, I mean, it's just very, 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 very sorry state of affairs.
Yeah, it's a fact. It's a fact.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So we have
Thank you
another
for-
question.
Thank you for raising the issue.
So we have another question from Daisy Rani ma'am. She says that the entire administration under 6th schedule is just a puppet administration. If it is so, where the rule of chieftain were better for realizing the rights of the tribal people.
That is a very direct and very constructive question. Yeah. See, this chieftainship, like as I mentioned earlier, way back in 1954, chieftainship was already abolished in Lusai Hills. Then these chiefs, they really have ownership rights, the sense of ownership. Because when I did my UGC project, I interviewed one son of the former chief who was a bureaucrat, retired bureaucrat. Then he narrated one story. So during his childhood, his father went to tributary villages for collection of tributes. Then he usually came back at night. Then he told me once my mother scolded him, "Why you didn't come back during daytime? Please don't come at night time because there were wild elephants, lions, tigers, and other wild animals which were really dangerous." But he said, "What did my father tell my mother?" His father said, "See, I am the chief. All those flora, fauna, wild animals, whatever they are, who live inside my territory, they are my subject. They will never harm their chief." So such belongingness the chiefs have. But after that chieftainship was replaced by democratically elected village council, is this village council having that own sense of ownership? That is the question still going on, debate still going on in even in Mizoram. So in this regard, the provision of sixth schedule itself, it provides autonomy and there are many good constitutional provision. But the problem is that it is not utilized as per the constitutional provision. So at this juncture, it may not be convenient to return to chieftainship also because it was abolished 6 decades ago. So whatever is available to us, in order that these tribal communities should be served better. So the only thing solution lies in creating awareness, reform, and social reform so that the constitutional implication and constitutional provision will be properly utilized.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions from the participants? Sir, Daisy ma'am there is less delegation of powers too. She is sharing her views.
Yeah, of course. Like sometime some state government did, do not delegate the powers which should be delegated to the ADC. And sometimes there may be delay. Yeah, of course, that is also one of the problems which was correctly highlighted.
So I too have a question.
Okay, carry on.
So you were talking about the modified forms of PRIs. So that it can be convenient and beneficial for the tribals. So, but my observation is that in the plain areas, also these PRIs, they don't function how they should actually function. So, is it possible that some modified forms can be made and implemented in the tribal areas?
Yeah, see, I am a member of the Village Council Peace Reform Committee in under government of Mizoram. Then we take up this issue also. Like when we use the word panchayat, the people begin to be allergic. They hate the very term. So by taking in the provision, instead of using gram panchayat, it can be said village assembly. Then instead of uh, like that panchayat, village council can be used, and some provisions, good provisions which will be beneficial, uh, they can be modified and adopted in such a way, like some provision which may be useful, which may be practicable, and which may be applicable, they may be incorporated. And even in village council in Mizoram now, some provision of Panchayati Raj little are already incorporated, like 5 years term of the village council, then reservation of seat for women, then some other provision, they are incorporated, but without using the name. In such a way, which is applicable, I think there is no harm in incorporating it. But some provision which are not, which are very foreign, so to say, very strange to the society, if it is enforced by force, that means that may not serve the purpose. So it requires very mature and accommodative spirit to introduce to in the tribal society. Particularly, they should be convinced first the benefits and the usefulness. If not, it will be risky.
Yes, sir. So we don't have any more questions in the chat box. Dipin sir,
Ma'am, can I ask something?
yeah, sure, ma'am.
Sir, what do you think that government should do for the progress of tribal territory? How do you think they are lagging behind? Sir.
See, ma'am, like not only lip service shall be given, practical work should follow. If every promise and every plans and every schemes ended with lip service, there will be no chance of development. So whatever is promised, whatever has been emphasized, the reality should follow. For example, as we know, like, let me give one example. Uh, we know, we are aware of the Look East policy which is going on. Then since 2014, Look East has been changed into Act East. But even after the change of terminology from Look East to Act East, those people in international border area, we do not find any more action. In such a way, what has been propagated, what has been planned, at least let it be done and let it be implemented accordingly. If not, everything ends in lip service. Tribal area will never be developed. Real development is required.
Thank you, sir.
So can I ask another question, please, Madam Maria, if you
Yes,
allow?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Okay, carry on.
Sir, my query is regarding the reservation of women. Why till now the amendment has not come with respect to reservation of women to participate in 6th schedule area politics?
No, not only in 6th schedule area, even in the
Others, yes.
plain area also. We know, of course, after the enactment of 73rd and 74th Amendment, 1/3 of the seats are now reserved for women. But as we are aware, for Parliament and State Legislature, women reservation bill is still pending. So in 6th schedule area, like hardly women are elected through direct election. But in the nominated seat, at least one seat is reserved for women. But yes, we know in the elected seats, there may be candidates sometimes, but there is no winning candidates among the women folk. But out of the some nominated seats, at least one seat is spared for women. This is so far the steps which have been taken up for women representation in the legislature in ADC that I can mention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for raising the issue.
So we don't have any other question. My fellow participants, if you have any questions, you can ask directly to sir. Sir, I think there are no more questions. Dipen, sir, are you there? Hello.
Yes, I am here. Yeah.
Sir, should I proceed with the vote of thanks then?
Yes, yes. So thank you, sir, on behalf of our organizing committee. Thank you very much for
Okay.
your wonderful presentation and having a good interaction with the participants. I hope our participants have learned a lot. And I hope you also share your this PPT so that we can share it to our fellow participants.
Sure. I can send to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Now I'd like to request Maria Resmi Aka to offer vote of thanks.
And I'm also thankful to the organizers and all the participants for your patient hearing. Thank
Yes.
you all.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I would like to